Mrs. Danielle DeVita back with another video. I overheard someone say that marriage is overrated. A lot of women say, I like the strong silent type. Well, a lot of men like the feminine silent type. And for sure, it's going down. So a lot of times people are not getting the when to speak and when to be quiet is one of the most powerful. She's going to be aggressive, thinking that. And as someone who's been married for 12 years, she's driven, not lazy. And this will make yourself and get on the right path. That understand that you might be doing a disservice to your daughter if you don't help her understand vetting and proper decision making. Now she's going to be a basket case later. If you don't help her understand emotional intelligence, she's going to hold on to a lot of emotional baggage. If you don't. Thank you for tuning in to Mrs. Danielle DeVita. I am a relationship and femininity coach. My goal is to help both men and women be in relationships that's best for them. Now, this video is going to be directed towards women. As you know, I am doing a series, and this is the fruit of the spirit. It is directed towards how women can be better girlfriends, better wives, better women in general. So there's, of course, the fruit of the spirit you can apply towards all relationships, familial relationships, at work, and so forth. But I am talking about romantic relationships. If you're a man listening to this video, this is a great tip for you to see what you want in a wife or what to look for in a wife. However, this video is directed towards women. Like I said, I do have content for men. Most of it is directed and surrounded around women, but I do have a book. So if you are a man listening and you're like, hey, I want some content, I would like to get some information, this is Command Respect from the Woman You Want. There's got a lot of content where men are saying, how do you get a woman to do this, do that? Well, I'm saying, as a woman, and if I'm the type of woman, if you're looking for a feminine woman and you're looking for women like that, and that's you're looking for women that surrounds the same kind of content that I talk about, then I would read this book, because this book tells you how to be that man to get a woman to respect you. And so this is a great way, a great tool, and you can see how men like my husband and other men can marry women and get them to respect them. They're not with combative women. So Command Respect from the Woman You Want. And as you can see, I purposely did this. If you could see, this is different type of men, not just a man in a suit. You can be any type of man. You can be a man in the working field of manual labor. You can be just a regular, your average Joe, or you can be your upper echelon, like what women like to say. You can be that type of man, and you can still get a woman to respect you. So it really does not matter where you are on the income spectrum, what you look like. If you're with a woman, how to get her to respect you. Definitely read this book. As you can see, it's a quick, short read, and as you can see, my picture's on the back. So again, let's get started. So as I mentioned, we talked about love last time, we talked about joy, and now we're going to talk about peace. And if you're a woman and you're trying to be a peaceful person, I don't like to hear people use the term how to be a peacekeeper, because if you're a peacekeeper, then there's no reason for you to be a peacekeeper. If there's peace there's nothing that you would be doing to disturb the peace, unless you really are just a combative woman. But I like the term be a peacemaker. A peacemaker is, even if there is peace there, or if there's not peace, your goal is to have the qualities and attributes to make sure that there's always peace, to make sure through your words and action that there's always peace in any relationship you have. Men value peace. They value peace in their home, peace in their relationships, just peace in general. And there's so much chaos out in the world. They would hate to go home to listen to women being combative or petty, or always, there's always something, right? And I like to say that if you feel like there is something to discuss, there's a way of doing it without getting to the point of nagging, because a person who nags all the time can disturb the peace. Even if you felt like the initial foundation, there's no peace there, because there's still some things that maybe he's doing. I often say, and I do get irritated with certain things that my husband does, but there's a way I have to do it. And now, of course, I'm not perfect, and I'm not going to say that everything that you do is going to be perfect. The goal is to typically let the man know how you feel. Like I said, if you're in a relationship where you're not married, it is easier to say that we have different standards, we have different values, at least from where we started, and I think we should part ways. If you're married, this is when you, instead of, nagging and yelling, this is when you need to sit down and say, I think we need to have a serious discussion. uh, right now I'm unhappy about a situation, and this is how I'm feeling. And then you explain the situation. If they're still not hearing you, or they're deflecting, or they're like whatever, dismissing it, then I would, if you feel like you can't have a successful and mature conversation, that's when you can get a counseling third party involved. Now, so disregard the noise. I'm cooking. So, all right. So, in order to be a peaceful person, it starts with you. And to truly do any of the things that I said, you would really have to have that inner peace. There's inner and outer peace. Outer peace is what we see going to the spa, having a calming environment where you can feel at peace, right? And creating those environments. That's outside influence, outer peace. Inner peace is something internal, which means whatever drama and trauma you have that you are at war with, when you with yourself, at war with whatever PTSD or things that have happened in your past, that's internal, and you'll need to resolve that so that now you can see things with fresh eyes and not looking at things in a defensive manner. So because sometimes when people have what we call a chip on their shoulder, they're upset about something that happened to them, and something currently triggers that, they're ready to yell and be upset. And this is men and women. And when you do that, then you are typically a combative person. You are a defensive person. You are someone who, what we like to call a person who likes to argue. They're argumentative. And when you resolve the things that are going on with you, and you're whole and you're happy and you're healthy, and there's no trauma or things going on that can trigger you easily, you won't have the thought process of how am I going to exasperate an issue. It's more of how can I come to a resolution, because that's what a peacemaker is. They're always looking for positive outcomes and resolutions. How can we come to an agreement? How can we cooperate? Because a person who's combative is unlikely to want to cooperate and come to this holistic and this resolution with a person, especially someone they say they care about, right? Even if it's someone that you don't care about, the goal is to always want to come to a resolution. You don't like conflict, but you're willing to work through and resolve it in a mature and healthy way. Now, there's a difference between people who don't like conflict, so they avoid it altogether, and they don't even want to deal with serious conversations. That's different. I'm saying you need to be assertive when there is some type of conflict, because we're going to have conflicts all the time within our lives, or dilemmas, whatever you want to call them. How you deal with the conflict is what affects the outcome of your relationships. I talked often about the magic ratio, and it's about, for every 5 conflicts or dilemmas that there is, the more a person responds in a positive manner measures the outcome of the success of their marriage. So people who typically have more negative outcomes than positive for every 5 conflict, they're less likely to stay married. A person who has more positive outcomes in the midst of these conflicts, for every 5 conflicts, are more likely to stay married longer. So in my marriage, there's conflict. These conflicts are not fights. They're not. They're discussions of disagreements. They're disagreements, and the disagreement is still a conflict. How I handle the conflict, it turns into a funny joke. We get, we're not as serious anymore or upset, or we just find a way to come to a resolution or to compromise and things like that. And there's no compromise at the expense of the other person, right? So we're both putting in some type of sacrifice to get a resolution done. So I don't want to make people think that someone's compromising and they're still losing on the end. There is still a way to win in the situation, but people are still both coming up with some type of way that they have to sacrifice in order for there to be a resolution. And a person who likes resolution, a person who wants to resolve a disagreement in a healthy way, they are what you call peacemakers. They're typically people who are great at empathizing and understanding others, and want to find outcomes, not just to be right, but to find an outcome that benefits both parties. And if you are a woman who says, you know what, I don't like to compromise, I like to do this and do that, well, then essentially you're a selfish person, because you're going to have children, and you're going to at some point want your children to cooperate with you instead of being right. You want a coworker to cooperate and come to resolutions on a project or something instead of just being right. And this is and now when you're in a relationship with someone you say you care about, your significant other, your spouse, right? If you are a person who say, I don't want to budge at all and I just want to be right, you may likely be right and be single. And if that's what you want, that's great, right? So I'm not saying you should be in a relationship and then just be in a relationship for the sake of it. You want to be in a relationship that is going to make you happy, that both parties are putting in the sacrifice. And that includes learning to both cooperate instead of just trying to be right. There's so many times I'm right and I'm like, you know what? Is it worth it to be right? And then you guys are mad at each other. I'm not saying giving in. I'm saying coming to a resolution. If both parties truly love each other, you're both going to want to come to a resolution. It's not always just you compromising. And so I'm not saying that you should be the only one compromising. I'm saying both of you should want to be in a healthy relationship where you come to a resolution. I think, and I'm all for wanting to, have your thing that you need to say, but sometimes being quiet is such a great thing. Not saying anything at all is important. Now, if for my Christian people, you would also know that even if you are with a person who is a non-believer, just by you and your positive actions, you can really turn a person, especially your spouse, to realize, you know what, by her peaceful actions, by her loving actions and words, it makes me want to be a better person, or more likely become a Christian person. So when you act out of character and out of pocket, people are going to say, well, look at that person. I mean, they say that they're a Christian and look at how they're acting. So if you are in any type of situation, not just a marital situation, but any type of relationship where you have the option to go all ham on someone or to be peaceful, people are going to look at your actions to see the kind of person you are. And part of being a feminine woman is being a peaceful person. Like I said, it's not that you are acquiescing to the point that you become a passive person. Anyone who knows me, I am not passive. But there's some things I'm not willing to fight for. There's some things I'm not willing to argue about, and because it's not that serious. I often say that when you are in the midst of some type of disagreement and argument, the question is, especially when it's with your significant other, the question is this person telling you to do something against your morals, values, standards, beliefs, that's going to go against your integrity and what you believe in? If it's something you feel strongly about, then discuss it. If it's not that serious, if it's trivial, if it's insignificant, move on. And this is part of being a peacemaker, not making a mountain out of a molehill. And if you are a woman who is not in a relationship, start practicing with your family and your friends and your co-workers, because this will better help you when you are in a relationship. You don't want to wait until you're in a relationship, because then when those moments come, you are trying to figure out as you go. But if you've been doing this all along, okay, this is second nature, right? When I'm in a situation, is it worth having a discussion? How can I be peaceful about it? And also, if I want this person to be peaceful and respectful to me, how should I come at them? Because naturally, people are defensive when you attack them. When you do this, you did this, you made me feel like this, and you're this and you're that. People are naturally going to be defensive, and they're going to try to prove you wrong with what you just said versus the actual argument of what they did, right? They're going to be trying to prove you wrong about, well, you can't say I always do this, or I never do this, or I'm this and I'm that. And I often try to not use those words always and never. Using words like, I feel like this. And you can say, sometimes I feel like this. Often I feel like this. At times, I feel like this. Not you make me feel like this. I feel like this. No one can tell you how you feel. This is how I feel. Now, whether the intent is there, that person can argue that. And then you can have those conversations about these times. Again, you don't want to be a person that, because this is also a person who's not acting in a peaceful way. always saying, remember when you did this and this and this and this. I I often try to bring up those times when when a person acts like they don't remember, and you're saying, well, just to bring this to recall, when I discussed this at this time, this happened. When I discussed this at this time, this is only when you're trying to prove a pattern. When a person is saying, I don't remember when, then you can use those things to for a pattern. But if a pattern is not necessary, now if something's a pattern, at some point you're gonna have to nip it in the bud, because now you can say, you know what, I've let it slide these 2 or 3 times. Now I need to say something, and then from there, that you don't need to make things a pattern at all. Again, after the third time, this then it becomes is seriously a problem. So this is why when someone does it the first time, or at least the second time, you should really say something instead of letting it go on. A pattern can really set a standard benchmark that you're not looking for. But neither here or there. It's not good to continue to pick and remind someone of the wrong they're doing. It makes people discouraged when you do that. So again, that is all I have for you. I don't want to talk too much about peace, because I think it's kind of self-explanatory. Work on you internally to deal with the trauma that you have. That's the internal piece. The external piece is making sure the environments that you're in is peaceful, where there's not a lot of arguing and yelling, where there's more calmness about you. And now part of that is being peaceful is first creating a loving environment, which we talked about love. Words, things that you say and do, you want them to be loving, which means you also want the people that are around you saying and doing things in a loving manner, and you don't want to have a pattern of people disrespecting you. Then you want to be joyful. There's a lot to be joyful about. When you are loving and joyful, you are creating the environment for being peaceful. So I hope that this helps you. Again, like I said, I have a book coming out, Girl, Go Get Your Husband. I'll let you know when it comes out. I know I've been talking about it for a while, but there's so much. Every time I finish the book, it's always another chapter I add to it, or changes I made to be a little bit more expressive, so you can fully understand what my mindset in that particular chapter. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be talking about patience in the next video that I do. All right, take care.